everybody. How are you all doing this fine day for take 2 of our attempt to read through this House of Dreams, and hopefully the internet is favoring us a little bit better this time. So I decided to go ahead and leave off all of the music in the background, and we're just going to do this cold turkey in this whole thing. Let me know if you guys have any issues on your end, but fingers crossed that we have no problems. I don't know what happened last time, but here we are. Yeah, the FBC tried to silence me. That's exactly... I was revealing too many of their secrets. That's exactly what's going on here. Anyways, so I do have a little setup a little bit differently so that we can flow through this a little bit better. So, hey, maybe this is a blessing in disguise. Who knows? So this episode will be the last in the Alan Wake playlist for the Hidden Lore series. It's going to be a lot shorter than everything else because we're literally just reading through a blog spot. So let's just do a quick preface. This came out back in 2012 at the same time that American Nightmare was released. And it appears to be just a little mini fun writing project done in the background. It was released on, I believe, Remedy and Sam's Twitter, and they linked out to this back in the day, but they never really made any official announcements outside of that. Which I think is... Hey, imagine you didn't know what was going on, you came across this blog spot just out of nowhere, you were not a fan of the Remedyverse, you didn't even know anything about them, you came across this in Reddit, and you're just like, what the hell is this crap? Anyways, I would love to see the perspective of someone who had no clue about anything trying to get into this. But anyway, so the plot essentially centers around a woman named Samantha Wells, and she moved and purchased a new house in the town of Ordinary, Maine. So that's where this town is. So she purchased this old property and she wants to renovate it, and this story just shows all the random BS that went along with it. Now, before we get going, there is a little bit of information that would suggest that Samantha does play a role later on in the series, and we're going to flip over to a little section of the Lake House DLC to really discuss it. So let's flip over here. This is a screenshot from when I did my first blind run-through of Lake House, and right here there's a document that is talking about the artist that was trapped inside of the Lake House facility by the FBC. She was essentially kidnapped along with other artists, and she found a way to escape. Now, in the room where they're talking about her, they have this random document that specifies, because she escaped and they're trying to reclaim her or find out where she went. And Section D is the important part. They are tasking their people with to check in with online public reappearances of Redacted, and they're to be performed weekly. Known web addresses associated with this individual in the past, these addresses with para-utilitarian / AW activity, such as this House of Dreams blog spot. So they very specifically call out that this is a known address of the lady who escaped from the lake house. Now, there's nothing in the blog itself that suggests that she's a vocalist, but you can't really argue with what they're asserting here, unfortunately. It just kind of is what it is. And then they also specify that the sirensociety.io is a location. There's also another web page, which that has to do with Poe. So we can very much presume at this point that the in-universe echo of Poe is this character. Now, whether that means it's in the same universe or it's another echo of the same character, we really don't know. I'd presume it's all within the same Prime Remedy universe, but there's really no way to say one way or another. But they also mentioned something about Blessed. I really hope that does not mean that she's got a link to the Blessed organization, but again, is what it is at the moment. Okay, so with that as a preface, let's go ahead and close out of this and get into the blog itself. Hey Jay, welcome on in. Okay, so everything good so far? No audio glitches, no lags or anything like that? I just want to make sure we're good before we get running. Everything's good on your end? Sounds good. Beautiful. Alright, so there's only one more thing we're going to switch over to, but that's when the time is right. All right, so this is going to be taking place in February of 2012. You wonder how much RCU lore is intentional or exists because of our mad ramblings? You know what, Telgate? I have no idea. It would not surprise me if they went off of random tinfoil theories and decided to play around with it. But most likely what they do is they leave enough plot threads that are not pulled, and they just decide, okay, I'm going to pull on that one now when they're writing the new story. I don't think that everything is planned from the beginning and we're just finally revealing it. No, it's more like, okay, they're properly writing it to fit into the pre-existing narratives. And they know there's enough unpulled plot threads that they can do at any given time. But anyways, so let's start with the introduction on February 22nd of 2012. Here's a random little photo of the place with your rigid conduit and some tile walls. Why would you have a wainscoting here? Unless this would be for some waterproofing like a shower, but this shouldn't be a shower. I don't know why there's a tile wainscot for tile for the walls there. Anyways, I'm sorry. I fulfilled my lifelong dream and bought an old house. This blog will follow the process as I renovate the house into the house of my dreams. It's going to be an exciting adventure. Welcome aboard. It'd be awesome if they named you in residence somewhere. Oh my god, don't even... okay, before we get too far into this, that's actually something that I would have loved to see, is be able to finish all of the FBC Archivist series in time to have a reference to that character, but I have the finale of Season 3 and a whole season left to do, so that's not going to happen, but I thought that'd be really cool. Anyways, let's skip on ahead to the following day to the tour of the house. Alright, I took some photos today of the fun work ahead. As you can see, this will take a while, but I'm up for the challenge. Some of my friends think I'm crazy for doing this by myself. Yes, I'm talking about you, Andrea and Jen. And I'm already browsing through wallpaper catalogs. Here are the photos. Okay, wallpaper? No. I'm sorry, wallpaper's not in anymore. Alright, so this is most likely the location. No, because I don't see the conduit coming down the walls. I'm trying to see where that photograph was taken. Alright, so this is just a vanity here, waiting for a new sink to be going into. Maybe like a laundry room or something? Wallpaper is in? No. Honestly, with my customers, in the last 10 years, I've maybe had 5 or 6 customers actually decide to put wallpaper in, out of a couple thousand. Anyways. So here's some of the pictures we got here. This is the staircase leading up into the attic space, and here's some more of the attic with some old blankets and stuff like that. Oh, and exploring the nooks and crannies of my future home has unearthed some real treasures. The previous owners left all kinds of stuff in the attic. More of that next time. Dean who knows too much. Target, location, unknown status, live SP. Oh gosh, no. I wouldn't want my myself to be referenced in the game. I'd prefer my character from FBC Archivist to make it in there. I think that'd be more fun. But anyways, first night in the house, and this is all the way. So she got it on the 22nd, and she had waited like a week and a half before she managed to get in. Is dark mode an option? How do you actually switch this to dark mode? Appearance, customizing mode. There we go. I mean, it's not going to really help much, but I guess it helps a little bit. Because I don't know how to get like this part of it actually in the dark mode. But anyways, I spent the night in my future home for this first time. It was almost like camping indoors. I had a sleeping bag. There's a weird flapping noise that kept me awake at night. I found a dead wren in the attic earlier. There is a broken window, and imagine that there's birds trapped somewhere in the walls. Not a nice image to think about. Sorry. Helps a little bit. Gotcha. Alright, so I think I mentioned this during my failed attempt a couple days ago, but I don't think it has anything to do with this right here, but I wanted to touch upon it because I thought it was interesting. So during the Phasmophobia crossover event with Alan Wake, there was 2 pages of a short story that Alan Wake wrote, and it dealt with 2 independent women, or I'd say individual women is a better word, that lived in quote-unquote different houses, but they were able to perceive one another through a shared wall. Now, we're not sure if this is two separate houses in the same universe, or these are the same house in two separate universes, but they kept hearing whispers and scratching and things of that nature from the other side of the wall, and it's very heavily implied they were listening in on each other without knowing who the other is, thinking it was just some kind of haunting. But so when she makes the reference of something trapped inside the walls, that's just where my mind goes. But I'm just going to say that's probably not the case. That's not going to be anywhere related to this story, but I just wanted to throw it out there. That's just living in a cheap house. Well, that's living in like a duplex or a condo where you have a shared wall. But anyways. Okay, toys in the attic. As I mentioned earlier, and this is a couple days later, as I mentioned earlier, the previous owner left all kinds of stuff in the attic. Her daughter told me that they have no use for them. I can do what I want with them. Alright. This is a little concerning. Because, okay, her daughter told me they have no use for them. Hold on. Let's read a little bit further before I make that comment, because I want to make sure that the mother is still alive. So let's keep going. I can do what I want with them. So here's a few little things in here. Just some chairs, random light fixtures that are hanging out there. Not much going on. A few bottles. We got some sewing kits, some buttons, random jewelry boxes, and the most important part of this is the shoebox in question. Sounds disrespectful. No, there's a reason why I'm asking that question, Pirate Gamer. But we'll get there when we get there. I've always been fascinated by attics. As a child, I used to sneak up to my grandparents' attic to explore. It always felt like a magical, mysterious place, slightly scary, but not too much so, filled with forgotten treasures waiting to be discovered. I felt the same way in the past few weeks, climbing up to my own attic. Here are some photos. Okay, the most wonderful discovery I've made so far is an old shoebox filled with typewritten sheets of poems and black and white photographs. Photos and scan of these soon. Alright. It's Samantha too eager to rifle through someone's belongings. Hey, well, daughter said they have no use for them and you can do what you want with them. So she was given permission before she did anything. Just to be fair. Now, the reason why I question whether the mother is still alive, because remember, this takes place in Ordinary. Now, this is 2012. Ordinary took place in 2002. So this is 10 years after the fact. Now, one quick detail I'm going to switch over to is that at this point in time, roughly, there was a resettlement initiative where the now basically Ordinary became a ghost town. Remember, the entire adult population vanished at the end of the AWE, and only a scattering of the remaining children were left. And we don't really know what happened with those kids afterwards. We know what happened with Jesse and Dylan, but that's really about it. We presume some of the bullies were arrested, but again, that was before the not mother showed up and wiped everybody out, all the adults out. So my question is the mother still around to talk to? In which case, maybe she had vacated the premises before the events of the Ordinary AWE, or is there an inconsistency there where the mother was still around? Also, is this daughter, we don't know the age of the daughter. It could be one of the remaining children that now grew up and is now an adult. Again, this is only a 10-year gap, so this would be maybe early 20s. Or this could be a previously adult daughter that was no longer there either. And it was just like an old home that the previous owner had owned and she left. But let's just keep that in the back of our minds as we go through this. Because I do not recall if they mentioned the actual mother in here. Anyways, let's go ahead and skip here and jump forward about a week to look at the shoebox photos. Good theory making, but retcons do exist. Correct. And we'd have to look at any retcon events that would have any ties to this, but we don't know about them yet. But again, even with like a reality shift occurring, Pirate Gamer, that doesn't mean that's not true now. Now, we can make you could go on the tinfoil hat theory and say the Ordinary AWE was caused, or at least came after a reality shift that now makes this history not as relevant as it was before, but there's no evidence for that either. Anyways, who would buy a house in a town where everyone disappeared? Dude, property prices. If no one wants to buy the place, you can get it for basically 10 cents on the dollar. I was going to mention that during our failed stream a couple days ago, but Samantha probably got a really good deal on this property because it's essentially vacant. It's essentially a vacant town. Yeah, you can get it for dirt cheap. And then you renovate it, you are part of the resettlement initiative, and then boom, the property values go up. It's kind of like when you get into the ground floor of a new community being built up. You purchase the house, you can get it cheap, and as soon as the community is built up, they put a few gas stations, a few grocery stores, and then boom, your property values explode. I have a friend of mine that did the same, and within about 5 years, he got triple his investment. His investment on the property tripled because he got it right at the ground floor before the community started being built up. In rural Maine, you'd assume it's haunted. I mean, haunted houses do sell cheap. Yeah, exactly. Vast haunted houses do sell cheap for that reason. They have to make the price, and they have to make a buyer give them incentive to purchase something. And if no one wants to buy it, they drop the price to say, no, we need to sell it though. Come on, we'll accept less. Let's do this. Anyways, sorry. Moving on. Shoebox photos. There were 2 black and white photographs in the old shoebox I found from the attic. The box was among the things left behind by the previous owner. The photos depict a man getting into and out of a wetsuit, and a woman, I'm guessing his wife or girlfriend, helping him. He could be a diver, I'm not an expert, but I'd say that the photos are from the 60s or 70s. Here comes the weird part. Their faces are covered with black and ink stains. It must have been done on purpose, as only the faces are covered. It's a delicious mystery, the whole shoebox is. I'm thrilled. I love mysteries like this. In addition to the photos, there are poems, 12 of them. I'll post them soon. Here are scans of the photographs. Okay, so how would the shoebox end up in this house considering Zane and Shoebox happen in Bright Falls? They do explain it a little bit later on, Wolf. They mention it. We'll just get there when we get there. But if I remember correctly, the lady picked it up at like a garage sale or some kind of estate sale or something to that effect. She just purchased stuff. She used to be like a thrift shopper. But anyways, let's continue. All right, so here we have what is very heavily stated to be Thomas Zane, or at least Tom the Poet. The one from the 1970s involved in that AWE that wrote himself out of existence, and this variant of Barbara Jagger. Now, we have to keep in mind that there was a reality shift at a later point in time that rewrote this backstory, and now we have a different version of quote-unquote filmmaker Zane. But, again, we'll talk about that when we get there, but it's not the same person. Tom the Poet from the 70s is not the same as Tom the Filmmaker. 2 separate entities, 2 separate characters. Even if one likes to pretend to the contrary. Anyways, there's there, and here's him jumping out right here. Yep, we got a blonde Zane and a blonde Jagger. Kaboom. Alrighties. Now let's look at the shoebox dream about 3 days later. Shoebox dream. Okay, I'm freaking out just a bit here. I saw a really bizarre nightmare last night. I know this is supposed to be a blog about my new house, but the dreams is related to that, and on the other hand, look at the name of the blog. This isn't what I meant to come up when I came up with the name, but now it feels strangely appropriate. Don't you think? In the dream, I heard the doorbell ring and went to open the door. There was a man there. He said he was a federal agent. He showed me his badge and all, just like the FBI agents do in the movies. Here comes the scary part. There was something wrong with his face. It was leaking inky smoke so that I couldn't see what he looked like. When I woke up, I realized that this image totally came from the ink-covered faces in the photos. Of course, see the previous post, the man asked me about the shoebox. He said that it contains top secret information and that I need to give it to him. I got scared that he'll put me in jail and went to get the shoebox, but I couldn't find it anywhere. I searched the whole house, but it was nowhere. Then when I went to the bathroom to look for it and saw myself in the mirror, my face was covered with inky smoke as well. That's when I woke up. When I think back to the dream, it didn't say FBI on the badge. It said AWE. This is the weirdest thing of it all. Now I can't find the shoebox anywhere. I have looked everywhere I can think of. I'm sure that it will turn up somewhere. There's just so much junk lying around in the house at the moment, but kind of creepy in any case. I didn't get around to scanning the poems yet, but I did take photos of them, luckily. Now, there's a couple interesting things here we have to touch base. So the whole thing with the badge being AWE, that's because at this point in time, I think this was the same year where Remedy actually... I don't know if it was this year or if it was in 2016 when Quantum Break was released. Anyways, no, it's not Alan Wake Experience. At this point in time, the FBC wasn't really called that. They initially were going to call it the Bureau of Altered World Events, in which case the FBC would use the acronym AWE. But later they decided to change the Bureau of Altered World Events to be the Federal Bureau of Control, and they used the term AWE as a catch-all phrase for weird events. But at this point in time when this was being written, that was the intention. So it was eventually altered, so you could argue there's a minor reality shift going on there in the universe, but who knows. Okay. And the other little bit here is, if someone from the FBC did show up, well, we happen to know that they were able to get in touch, or get the shoebox itself. Because, let's go click down here. Boom! Oh, shoot. Ka-ching. So this is right from Control in the research sector. We have the shoebox notes. Some notes. I think I've stumbled into something here. Only notes, early hypothesis now. Further testing needed. The shoebox retrieved from Ordinary in summer of 2012, referencing the Ordinary AWE of 2002, Samantha Wells, that's who we're talking to, and that there's a repopulation ongoing in the town. As I was mentioning, blog, This House of Dreams, FBC alerted. So as a result of the blog being posted, the FBC was notified that things were going on, and they took this opportunity to investigate it. Now, they mentioned that it contents point to Thomas Zane. This is after the FBC recovered it and brought it back to the oldest house. Now, here's the weird thing is, when Samantha experienced the agent, it was within a dream space, and yet they really did get their hands on it. You posted something in the Alan Wake channel of Discord that may be related. Okay, give me a second. Okay, this book was written by Sam Lake. It's referenced in Alan Wake 2. The book is holding during Herald of Darkness in a child's bedroom. The book is about a girl that lives and visits her grandma's home. Gran disappears and she follows a red wool thread into the wallpaper, and house shifts like the oldest house and House of Leaves. Okay. Be My Cozy. And this is written by Sam... Oh, interesting. Okay, I'll definitely have to check this out. I appreciate that. And I will review that at a later date. So really the whole idea, the question I have... Yeah, Ethan, you're thinking where I am. I think she was given some kind of amnesia drugs. We don't know if there's... why she perceived this as a dream and the FBC were able to physically take it. Now, at this point in time, this was under Director Trench's administration, so I seriously doubt that he would have authorized the use of altered items. But we know Jesse eventually authorized that, but I think that was in like 2022, 2023 is when that occurred. Oh, you guys, I'll go to the Discord and I'll pull up the book if you guys want to take a look at it. But for right now, let's just keep this ball on rolling. So I don't know if they did something to her to make her perceive the event as a dream, or they just kind of broke into her house and stole it, and while she was dreaming, she kind of interpreted them showing up inside of her house. Well, the thing is, Sergeant Army, even if the FBC did have some kind of altered item that could be used to alter her memory, Trench would never allow it to be used. He was all about lock it up, don't touch it, period. And it took 3 or 4 years into Jesse's administration before she even authorized that to be used. And we see the result of that in FBC Firebreak. And we've never seen them use drugs or anything to remove memories. But the problem is that their memories weren't removed. They were just perceived as a dream. But anyways, So they label the shoebox as a potential altered item, not flagged. AWE is in the lab. So they currently have it in the research sector. Now, the thing that kind of throws me off a little bit here is this occurred in 2012, and this whiteboard was found in the oldest house in 2019, meaning it would have been there for 7 years without being wiped away and no further research being done. I don't know why that would be. It seems kind of odd that you would be showing research notes on something that happened 7 years ago. But anyways. Okay, so everything is affected but the shoebox's contents. So they're recognizing that shoebox are a loophole and they're immune to reality shifts. Now we got to keep that in mind. Zane did make that a loophole. So we have to fully perceive anything that's in there existed before any reality shifts occurred and cannot be altered no matter what. We recreated the event with the same results. Now, how they recreated the events of making a reality shift, who freaking knows? I know Dr. Campbell was working on that with his nursery rhymes, but that's besides the point. They recreated it with a different shoebox from his house, or from the researcher's home. Same results. What the fuck? Shoeboxes can't be altered. Contents safe. Why? How? Loophole. We could use this. Now, they do reference that the contents point to a Bright Falls AWE in 1970 of summer and the 2010, and they're wondering if these are connected. But remember, like, this is happening later in the blog, but who took the shoebox? We are in the middle of testing here. Bring it back, idiots. So at some point, the shoeboxes magically vanished from the FBC, from the oldest house, and there's they don't know where it went. Yeah, all shoeboxes have immunity. Does Europe have their own paranatural agency? No idea. But we do know that the FBC does have field offices in other nations. It's not just localized to the US. Anyways, so let's go ahead and close out of this now. We no longer need that. Alright, actually, real quick, let me pull up my Discord so I can show you guys that book. Give me a second. Alan Wake, and boom. Right here. So this was written by Sam Lenk and deals with Mia's grandma has gone missing. Luckily, Mia would be world's second greatest detective. When she grows up, she follows a clue. Grandma's red wool thread is an adventure waiting in the magical world inside the wallpaper of Grandma's cottage. Mia Marble and the Mystery of the Missing Grandma's children's books that weaves myth, fairy tales, and quirky humor into an exciting and endearing adventure. I did not know this is even a thing until just now. Thank you. I'll definitely check this out. Drawing inspiration from a classic picture books, the charming illustrations add modern playfulness and Nordic style into the mix. Okay. Now I want to see if he has written anything like that in the past. But anyways, let's go ahead and take a look at this. Make a shoebox out of black rock and it's invincible? I mean, does it really... Okay, semantically speaking, does a shoebox need to be made out of cardboard, or can you use like a wooden box to carries shoes in? And when does it stop being a shoebox and being something else? Because they stored everything but shoes inside of these shoeboxes. Semantically speaking, what makes it a regular box versus a shoebox? Anyways, you shouldn't question these things too much, because then the magic is going to go away. Anyways, all right, Under the House, March 25th, so we're going forward about 2 weeks. A couple guys came to do some plumbing work on Friday. They had to get under the house to do that, and I discovered that there was a trap door that led to the crawl space underneath. It had been screwed shut and had to be opened. After they were done, I decided to go down there to explore. Armed with a flashlight and my iPhone for shots, I squeezed myself through the trap door. It was cramped and claustrophobic. I'm amazed that the workmen were able to do anything down there. I'm tiny compared to them. I was mentally prepared for rats and dead cats or something worse, but there was nothing out of the ordinary down there. Nothing out of the ordinary in the town of Ordinary. capital O. So this is where we get the confirmation she's in ordinary Maine. Pun intended. Here are the photos. Whoa, come on. There we go. Alright, so decent little crawl space. You got maybe like 4 feet clearance here. Looks about right. Got some old galvanized piping here in the corner. Yep, it looks just like any crawl space I've ever had to work in. Alright, so that's going to be it for that day. And the same day, she went ahead and uploaded the photos she took of the poems. Okay. Shoebox poems. I've been really busy and stressed at work lately, but in spite of that... Okay, so... This is... I'm really having a hard time rationalizing how Samantha Wells is the musician we later see in the lake house. Unless she developed that talent after the fact. Because again, she's at work, which would... She doesn't really reference that in the blog whatsoever, that she's any kind of artistic talent, but... Moving on. But in spite of that, the shoebox and its contents are never far from my thoughts. You might say that I'm getting a bit obsessed about them. I've been trying to find out who the poet is, or the couple in the photos, but no luck. I asked the daughter of the previous owner about it. Her mother is in a nursing home and suffers from advanced Alzheimer's disease, so she wouldn't be able to help me. Okay, so I wonder if that has anything to do with... Because it makes me think of what's going on with Pat Maine as well. Well, Flarouche is like, there's, like, I'm not buying it either, but at the same time, the Lake House flat out says that the musician, the vocalist, the singer who escaped from them, a previous online source that this person used was this blog. So it's explicit, they say it outright, there's really no interpretation behind it. I'm just trying to find logical consistency with it. But yeah, I'm curious if this Alzheimer's is just normal due to advanced age, or because of something similar to what caused Pat's mind. What if Poe is a relative? The thing is that now we're injecting stuff in there without anything to support it. I mean, we can say, what if Poe is an alien? Well, I can't prove Poe's not an alien, so therefore Poe is an alien. That's you can't prove something like that, where you just inject something with no means of proof or disproof. That's why I don't like injecting things like that. Anyways, she was certain that no one in her family was a poet, and she doubted that the people in the photos were anyone from her family. She told me that her mom liked to buy stuff from yard sales, that's where it is, and her guess was that the shoebox was something her mom had picked up from one of those. So the question is, where was this yard sale, and why were they selling some of Thomas Zane's effects? But again, it comes down to when she left town, because the ordinary AWE, none of the adults were there anymore. So that's why, like, I've heard some people make the argument that this house is Jesse or the Faden siblings' old house. That wouldn't make sense because the daughter is like all throughout this, and that's not really her. And we know that her parents disappeared, so there's no finding her in a nursing home. It just wouldn't. It doesn't fit whatsoever. Anyways, moving on. I've tried to find find the shoebox after it went missing, but I can't find it. I'm so glad I took the photos of the poems before I lost them. Here they are. All right. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of this whole thing. Their previous owners before the one she bought them from. The information we're given is that this is a resettlement issue, and this place became a ghost town. Even in America Overnight, there was that one caller that called in, and it still wasn't being settled, really. It was kind of just empty. So it took a long time to get to that point. It's not like immediately, like the following few months, people just moved back into the neighborhood. This is a relatively recent thing. Yeah, I did say Blessed was on the list of potential, but it didn't have a capital B Blessed. It was a lowercase b Blessed, so could be a misdirect. I don't know. I don't think anyone truly knows. You can have a supposition, but that's about the extent of it. All right, let's get into these poems. Kept from sleep again, that's a Thomas Zane title of one book. Kept from sleep again last night, by the sound of chimes. I sway so far below heaven, so high above hell. Frost creeps up the trunk of my spine. All is blackness through these holes of my eyes. Just the wind in my skull and the wings of her crows. They perch on the gallows. They have pecked me clean and made a chime from my bones. And so this is just an image of a skeleton hanging on a hangman's noose. He's basically already been killed. His neck's already been broken, and he's just degraded so much to the point where, but he still has the perception of coming out of his own empty eye sockets. You found the book narrated by Marco, posted by... Oh, dude, that's awesome, Rama. Thank you. All right, so B's comment. This is Barbara. A diver, not a hanged man. Think about it. So she made the inference that, oh, no, we're going to... Instead of making this a skeleton, we're going to make it a diver. So let's read this again with the image of a diver in the head. Kept from sleep again last night by the sounds of chimes. I sway so far below heaven, so high above hell. Frost creeps up the trunk of my spine, all is blackness through these holes of my eyes. Just the wind in my skull, the wings of her crows, and we're talking about probably Barbara Jagger here, or the Scratching Hag more specifically. They perch on the gallows, they have pecked me clean, and maybe we say, like, there's no inconsistency there though, because they still make reference to the gallows. But most likely this poem was rewritten or adjusted to reflect the diver in some way. So who is the woman in the nursing home and her daughter of all the adults of ordinary vanished? Either FPC cover. The thing is, like, it's possible that the nursing home exists outside of town. Because it's really, like, the AW was localized to the town of Ordinary, and frequently you'll end up in a home not in that town. It was considered a very small town to begin with, so that's a likelihood. Trunk of your spine is a weird turn of phrase. Yeah, because it implies the image of, like, a tree as well. And maybe that's where the hangman's noose, but they do mention the gallows, so that would imply it's not a tree that the hangman's noose is hanging from. But anyways, just for a heads up, I'm not that great at poetry, everybody, so I'm relying on you guys to help me out with a lot of these. It's just not my forte. And I'll just leave it at that. All right, let's go on to poem number 2. Well, the Valhalla nursing home Ichiro doesn't exist yet. Because that only existed after a reality shift, and that hasn't happened yet, so therefore it doesn't exist yet. It will, but not now. Okay. In this temple of shadow and mist, again, another book title, there's a window in the floor and a door in the ceiling. There is no knowing. Am I standing still, or running, or kneeling? Now, this one right here, 100% is spoken by Tom the filmmaker, in Alan Wake 2. So just flat out, this one was taken completely. Now, this isn't the original poem, because there is a scratched out stuff here. Now, who made the alterations? We don't know. But remember, this pre-existed and is immune from any reality shifts. So we can infer that the original poet wrote this. Yeah, Pyrogamer, I do perceive the Temple of Shadow and Mist to be the dark place. 100%. 100%. Because it's a land of mist and fog. But who knows? I don't think Scratch has anything to do with this personally, but we do know that something that acts very similar to Scratch was quoting this in Alan Wake 2. And yes, Raven, the gallows and ravens are associated with Odin. Okay, well, let's backtrack real quick. So if they're trying to make the image of... Oh, okay. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, if people who remember the myth better than I, did Odin, like, hang himself from the tree? and then gained the ability to for like was like the 9 days or whatever, he hung himself from a tree, and then he developed the ability to know the ruins as a result? Or did he impale himself with a spear on the tree? I do not recall, because I remember there distinctly a memory of him having a story about being pierced with a spear also. But yeah, I can definitely see how this is making a reference to Odin. He hung from a tree. Okay. Then yeah. I'm down for that interpretation. Well, I think giving up the eye was down at the Mimisbrunner, where he went down to the Well of Wisdom and to drink from... Before Mimir would allow him to drink from the waters of the Mimisbrunner, he had to sacrifice his eye. That's a whole separate situation, though. He hung upside down on Yggdrasil, the world tree, for 9 days, 9 nights, as act of self-sacrifice. Yeah, because he learned the ruins from the hanging, but he got all the other wisdom from drinking the waters. He had to sacrifice the eye. Okay. So if that's the case, then they're making some connection between the diver and Odin, I guess. Not Odin in terms of the Anderson, but just the general concept. He was friends with the old gods, right? There's no evidence of that. It wouldn't surprise me, though. The Andersons did live in the town, not at that time, but they did have a family farm there, so it's possible. But I'm definitely going to have to look back on that myth in the context of Tom the Poet, for sure. The new post in the Discord has videos with images from the book and some text from it. It's only a sample of the full book. Yeah, I'm not going to play it right now, but I'll definitely maybe release like a little video on it later. Okay, let's move on to page 3. From bloom to gloom, our love is like fire. Consumed, we burned our bridges. Furniture's clothes, hair, flesh, and bones. All too soon, we ran out of things to burn. But while it blossomed, our love was like a flower. B, this is us, T. This is a really weird one, because it's basically kind of an acknowledgement almost that their time together burned so brightly, but it's going to burn out real quick. This one, yeah, it sounds negative to me as well. But then she's also writing a little heart right here, and she's commenting on this. I don't know. Because bloom to gloom, that's going from, yeah, alive to dead. But the use of fire is also used quite often in Quantum Break. Much later on. Where they refer to time as the fire. If I remember correctly, it wasn't in the game Quantum Break, but the Old Gods scene where you're supposed to have, like, you know, we have the concert scene and the ocean, or in the ashtray maze scene and all that fun stuff. There was supposed to be one of those in Quantum Break, and it was the song Labyrinth by Poets of the Fall, and one of the lines is time is a flame, or something to that effect. So yeah, our love it's basically fire implying time, as well as its ability to burn bright. But anyways, yeah, there's not much here. It just seems an odd thing right there. Okay, moving on. Until that time comes around again, the shadows fall on this town again. Oh, that's definitely Bright Falls. It's barely evening, but the shadow falls on me again. No one will miss us. Our faces inked black. Okay, that's... We just saw that in the photos. They'll sell our things at the flea market. They'll never call us back. Whoa, back up. So right there, that's how the mother who used to own this property got the shoebox. They sell our things at the flea market. So this is definitely just setting it up right here. And it's most likely referencing the 1970 AWE. So if that's the case, she must have purchased this like back in the 70s. This must have been like, or at least when the lady purchased the shoebox must have been somewhere in like the 1970s after the AWE event, which means she must have had it for a long time. Now, this takes place in Maine, where that took place on the West Coast. So there's got to be some kind of disconnect or connection there. But, okay, so the lyrics are time is a wraith, time is a blaze. There you go. Close enough. But there's also references from Paul Serene's Dreams and Quantum Break where they reference time as a flame. Anyways, so she left with them. They'll wine her and dine her. We huddle naked in this alley. Nothing's for sure. Fir needles tickle. We bathe in rainwater. All the way to the ocean. The memory of the slaughter. Now, what was the... I remember memory of the slaughter being something specific. I don't know if it's Max Payne or Alan Wake. It's an Old Gods song. Okay, thank you. Yes. An album of the Old Gods' Memory of the Slaughter. There you go. All the way to the ocean, memories of the slaughter. So there's got to be some kind of overlap between the album or one of their songs with what's happening here as well. Let me check something real quick. Give me a second. So it's on Old Gods of Asgard. It's somewhere in the Wayback Machine. Wayback Machine Live. Old Gods of Asgard. I'm trying to remember what year that was. That album came out. Oh, it's just they took their wiki has it. You think? Okay, let me check it out. Discography. There we go. Memory of the Slaughter. Oh, it was their very first one, 1971. That would fit. The Memory of the Slaughter. So that was their very first album in 71. Which is right after this event occurred. Okay. And I think it was July of 1970, if the calendar in the cabin at the beginning of Alan Wake is anything to go off of. So, okay, good enough. Until that time comes around, the shadow falls in this town again. It's barely evening, but the shadow falls on me again. When I'm awake, I'm barely alive. When I sleep, I have two hearts, your heart and mine. So one, this shows a cyclical nature of darkness falling upon the town over and over in a cycle, which we see that at least 5 times now. 1970, 76, 78, 2010, and 2023. Which Bright Falls AWE the Marama, there's, as far as I can tell, there's 5 of them. So yeah, it's mostly just talking about the cyclical event of stuff going on in Bright Falls, but also specifically how the shoebox made it into Samantha Wells' attic. It sounds like the weird blackout poetry from Alan Wake 2. Yeah, see, like, this is why I mentioned during episode 5 of our Alan Wake playthrough that the page that Alan found in the well-lit room, the prose sounds like Alan's work. This is Tom the Poet's prose, and it sounds nothing like the page we found in the well-lit room. Absolutely nothing like it. And that's very revealing to me. Because the voices, the prose and the voices, just completely a different style. Okay, let's move on to number 5. I wish it would shatter like glass under my heels. Just like a sheet of ice, when I close my eyes, that's how the mirror feels. Oh mercy, thousands have gone missing, beyond the labyrinth of me. When you're lost in your own company. Alrighty, so yes, this 100% was referenced by Tom the filmmaker. Not the first part, the second part. He only referenced this section. Now we got a hand-drawn face. We can 100% tell who this is over here. We have an image of the cabin right here, and then some drawings of the forest. Now this looks very similar to the images on Thomas Emerson's whiteboard and the lodge when he was trying to develop his own Night Springs video games. Yeah, it looks like Max to me. It definitely looks like Max to me and not Alan. Does the cabin look like eyes? Yeah. The cabin is designed to look like it's a bird's face staring at you, if you look at it from the side. Now here's an interesting little detail considering we have Max's image. Or it can be Sam. I mean, well, same thing, right, Wolf? In this hall of mirrors built by liars, I'm a pale reflection of myself. Pool. Now, the poet named Pool, and that excerpt is actually in Max Payne 2, specifically in Address Unknown. So John, in Address Unknown, when he gets to the payphone and he starts hearing someone reciting, or he starts reciting it to himself, the poem from Pool. And it's a poem called Someone's Been Wearing My Face Again. So Tom the Poet here is getting referencing to something that's happened in a fictional TV show in the Max Payne universe. So he's aware of a poet named Pool. Now, the meaning behind this, probably Dark Place shenanigans, or Pool exists in other places too. Obviously, he's a stand-in for Sam Lake, but If Remedy held the rights to Max Payne, do you think Alex Casey would flat up in Max Payne? Yes. Most likely, yes. Because if I remember correctly, the Max Payne games were done in collaboration with Rockstar, and Microsoft was the one financing Alan Wake. But anyways, moving on. Mist like death, mist like a lover's breath, rolls so soft and cold and wet. Memories met for the first time, secrets whispered, to find a long-lost doorway home, or to be led to parts unknown, and forever disappear beyond this veil, in her dreams to prevail. This is another title for one of Zane's books, or at least the poet's books. Microsoft. Epic only really was helped out in Alan Wake 2, and that was just mostly financing. But Microsoft owned everything back when Alan Wake 1 was being produced. So this one, I don't really have much to say about it, to be 100% honest. Is this some form of poem in the Sea of Night? I don't know. Memories met for the first time, secrets whispered, to find a long-lost doorway home, or to be led to parts unknown. I'd like to know who the her is in this scenario. I mean, this could just be referencing when he brought Barbara back from the dead. Yeah, that's probably all I can figure, because we did have the reference to her here, the wings of her crows, which definitely references the Scratching Hag. That's like that's just a given. That's the Dark Presence's character in Alan Wake 1. And then here, they reference it again. So this may just be his feelings upon her coming back from the dead. Well, no, it's not the Dark Presence female. The Dark Presence is... There is no gender to the Dark Presence. It's just a thing. It's just an abstract entity. It's not a gendered thing. It's more the character that it's portraying in Alan Wake and in Tom's poem here is a female character, because it's portraying Barbara Jagger in the story. It's more of an archetype. But anyways, moving on to number 7. You know, there's an Easter egg flat out references John Muir in Address Unknown. It's in a bathroom somewhere. Max Payne 1. No, it's not in Max Payne 1. It's in Alan Wake. It's in the DLC of Alan Wake in the bathroom. No username. That's where you see the John Muir reference. Your eyes were so cold when you watched me go under. You were sitting in the boat. I floated down to the darkness like a cloud. From the shark bite. I breathe out my life with you. The currents wash me away. I let the currents wash me away. So this one, it feels like from the perspective of maybe Barbara. But what I find weird is they have the reference of the darkness like a cloud, like it's from a shark bite. That is directly imagery that Alan used. Because remember, when he was referring to what the taken looked like, it's like inky smoke, like blood from a shark bite. He specifically used that terminology and that imagery. Now, we do know that Alan did go downstairs in the cabin during that missing week and look through Thomas Zane's poetry and incorporated a lot of what was in those poems into his own work. So it's possible he read this and then just decided to go ahead and use this similar imagery when he wrote Departure. That's the easiest solution to this little dilemma. But it is what it is. Alright, moving onwards. Yes, it just seems like the perspective of either Alice or Barbara descending into the lake. Alright. My mother told me to no avail, if you play with shadows, you grow sickly and pale, and forget all the wonders the sun can unveil. Beyond the shadow you settle for, there's a miracle illuminated. E's favorite line, that's going to be Emil Hartman, Dr. Hartman. A long talk with him about the meaning. No changes, but keep in mind for another time. So, some conceptual reality beyond this reality. Hold on. Forever disappear beyond the veil in her dreams. So, which one, Marama, are you referring to? Because you said it was part of the his chant. Conceptual reality beyond the reality. These ways will wash you away. I mean, yeah, they say the currents will wash you away, but it's a common turn of phrase. I wouldn't say outright that, oh, this is where the hiss chant came from, because we know exactly where the hiss chant came from. Alan was in the room 665 with Tom the filmmaker, probably drugged and drunk and just completely out of his mind, and he just ripped up a bunch of random things and threw them all into a box and kind of like flipped them around and pulled them out and just made a random didactic poem out of it. Now, you could argue that maybe he no, you couldn't say, because it's not identical phrasing, so it's not like he tore up this page and threw it in the box. But it's very similar. Okay. Now we got on there. So he wants to rewrite this section. Frightened of the shadows of the deep, he challenged me to a duel. I indulged him. So he's like, I gotta rewrite that. For he did not know that beyond the lake he called home lies a deeper, darker ocean green, where waves are both wilder and more serene. So this is one we know. We know this one very well. Okay. Now this one, the second line says everything. I go underground, follow me underground. So the second album by the Old Gods of Asgard was called Follow Me Underground. And that was the one where after its release, or right before its release, Loki vanished. He just went missing entirely. We still don't know what happened to him, but the fact that that's the album that caused Loki to disappear, and then this is the name of the album is right here on line 2. It's weird. I go underground, follow me underground. Everyone else is gone there. Down to the ground, I'll take you underground. That's just way too much alliteration for my taste. They chased a mystery. They are a mystery to me. And you'll think that of me when I tell you my tale. What we bring with us, sorry secrets and awkward lies. Wet matches. So wet matches is interesting. It's basically you have the potential for igniting fire, but because it's wet, you aren't able to light it. It's impossible to light it because it's wet. I don't know how that applies here. Again, poetry's not my strong suit. A yearning for overcast skies. Everything else down here has been stolen so many times. Everyone who walks down these steps dies. A useless tool, yeah, basically. I go underground, follow me underground. Everyone else has gone there, down to the ground, and I'll take you there. Honestly, this may play into a hypothesis of mine that has to deal with the filmmaker. Yeah, the problem isn't the alliteration, it's just the repetition. There's just too much of the repetition of that sound. Wet matches also sound like false hope. Okay, they chased a mystery, they are a mystery to me, and you'll think that of me when I tell you my tale. What we bring with us. Sorry, secrets and awkward lies, but matches a yearning for overcast skies. A lot of these sounds like they could have been songs. Well, we know that a lot of Old Gods lyrics and Thomas Zane quotes kind of like overlap. Again, Follow Me Underground, that's the name of the album. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and say this because the whole Labyrinth of Me one right here, where is it? Where's the Labyrinth of Me? Where thousands have gone missing. Right there. Oh mercy, thousands have gone missing beyond the labyrinth of me. When you're lost in your own company. Combined with the Follow Me Underground, where they chased a mystery. This is the ritual leading you on, right? They are a mystery to me, and they'll think that of me. Blah 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 blah. Everything else here has been stolen so many times. Everyone who walks down these steps dies. My hypothesis on Tom the filmmaker is that yes, he is a modern incarnation of the Mr. Scratch from American Nightmare. Because remember, the entire characterization of Scratch is that he was trying to usurp Alan's identity. Where he was trying to say, no, Alan Wake doesn't exist. I'm Alan Wake. Everything he did, that's me. And I'm secretly a serial killer. I'm secretly insane. I'm secretly an evil mofo, right? That was his whole thing. To basically make Alan vanish into the dark place permanently while he took over his life. Tom the filmmaker keeps doing the same thing. Where he's like, oh yeah, Tom the poet? That poet back there? Yeah, that's not a real person. That was always me. Oh, True Tom Reimer from Death Rally? Oh, no, that wasn't a person. That was always me. And now at the end of the final draft of Alan Wake 2, Tom the filmmaker is making it, blurring the lines, saying, oh, Alan Wake the writer? No, that wasn't a real person. That was always me. He's doing the exact same thing as Mr. Scratch from American Nightmare. It's only he's doing it to every echoed variant across the Remedy connected universe, where he's basically a plagiarist claiming that he is all these other people. So it just cracks me up. Yes, follow me down, chase the mystery, and then everyone that comes down here has been stolen, almost like he's casting a net up into the ocean and dragging down. He's like fishing for artists to collect and usurp, to steal and to inhabit their identity. And that's the same thing right here. Thousands have gone missing beyond the labyrinth of me. When you're lost in your own company. He's literally just he's a plagiarist, claiming the identities of every version of Alan Wake across the multiverse. Until there can only be one. And yes, and Sign, I do reference that in my script Marama. Sign, remember how they changed Thomas Zane to Thomas Sign, S-E-I-N-E? Well, that is a word that literally just means a huge net used to drag under the water and capture fish. His name is literally named after a fishing net. So, like, that is my huge thing. I have an entire video already scripted, recorded. It hasn't been edited or thrown into a video yet, but I've had it done for like a year. And that's my big, huge Tom the Filmmaker hypotheses. And when you read stuff like this, it kind of feeds into that. And when we go to play Alan Wake 2, you'll see it more when you look at it in those ways. I mean, let's be 100% honest. What was the point of Nightless Night, Utenyu? Because the whole thing of it is Tom the filmmaker is playing the character of Alan Wake within his story, and the plot of the story is him waking up out of the dark place back into reality. But which came back, the actor or the character? It's almost like he's telegraphing it's exactly what he's trying to do. He's trying to blur the lines between what it is, what Scratch is, what the filmmaker is, and who Alan is, to the point where we can't tell the difference, so that when he does come back, do we actually know that Alan Wake got out at the end of Alan Wake 2? Or did something else that looks like him that's playing the role of Alan Wake come out? It's like, there's a lot that goes into this that I just, it's freaking insane. It's maddening shit. But again, that's what Mr. Scratch from American Nightmare tried to do. It's the exact same story. It's just done very differently. Yeah, so I'm suggesting that the individual tall man is Mr. Scratch from American Nightmare. More specifically, a modern interpretation of that character archetype, where he is the Herald of Darkness attempting to escape, like, open the door for forces outside of himself. But we'll talk more about that as we go. Let's move on to page 11. The Dark Place, and it's all kind of inched out. Divorce me from all that is sane. Hold on, I need to zoom in because it's hard to see. Screaming mute darkness descend on this pale frame. I drown in the fathomless black space. Light never scratched the depths of this domain. This is Bounce Lays the Demon lyrics. I see not, yet nothing could be worse than the shades of my mind calls herein, alone at my own wake, and the unraveling of reason's skein. So yeah, this is this flat out a poem being read at the very end of Bounce Lays the Demon. Some are born to endless night. And I believe that is, shoot, that's reference to the Quantum Break whiteboard as well. Hold on. I forgot the name of the poet that did that. It's from Auguries of Innocence by William Blake. There we go. Yeah, so that poem is directly referenced. Some are born to endless night. That was referenced in Quantum Break as well. We pillage and whore, hauling our loot. We swagger down alleys, we don't say please. The town is burning, we see it in flame. We are the fire that's gone out in your eyes. He crossed that part of it out. We are the maggots gnawing your heels. We are the rain trickling down from the holes in your ceiling. We are the ants inside your walls and under the boards of your floor. We are eating your house. We are the sharp rocks under your knees in front of the altar when you are kneeling. We have no morals, we have no qualms, we don't give a damn. The sewers are clogged. Filled with waste, the water is rising. So this is like flat out lyrics from The Dark, Twisted, and Cruel. Yep, exactly, Marama. So even Mr. Scratch's song in Alan Wake 2 that's referencing him is taken right out of here. It's taken right from here. Is where the Dark, Twisted, and Cruel lyrics come from. Hey, Capitan, welcome on in. So I like this kind of storytelling. I don't get people that call Remedy games too difficult to understand or too weird. It's like I'm meant to be confused in the way. Well, the point is to be not being in the know, it's being in the mystery. It's so freaking cool. Like, we've been studying this stuff. Like, at least I've been involved with the Remedy community since 2010. I didn't start this channel in 2019, but I've been researching this stuff for like 16 years, and I'm still finding new shit every time I turn around. Which is freaking cool. Alright. We'll make a ship out of your naive broken dreams and lay siege to your sanctuaries. We are a ravenous horde of rats. We are the fangs and we are the beasts. There will be no more admiring gazes, no more courtesies, no more gardens in spring. We are the rising waste, and you will be a drowned king. Now, other bit of imagery here that I find kind of interesting is the filled with waste, the water is rising. And it very much brings to mind Zachariah Trench after Jessie was taken by the hiss and she's in that cognitive space. And she finds Trench in his office just kind of rambling to himself. And he talks about how it's like the water's trying to rise. There's the muck coming out from the bottom of the toilet, but there's a fish that was put in there to block it, and it was the janitor who put the fish there in the first place, referencing Ahti, of course. So yeah, the filth that's rising. There's also referencing to the clog, the entity of the clog that is Ahti's arch nemesis. The rising waste. The waters are rising, but the fish was put in there to keep it in bay. It's just so much random poetic stuff that just keeps getting passed around throughout the entire franchise. It's kind of crazy. Anyway, so that's going to be the last of these 12 pages of poems. We still have more, though. We still have more, but that's it for the time being. All right. Honestly, we may make this an entire 3-hour stream. I wasn't expecting this to go that long, but we may end up going the entire 3 hours. All right, guys. So now let's jump forward to April. We're jumping forward about 2.5 to 3 weeks. Boom. All right. As the photos are a bit blurry, I'll transcribe the poems here. Okay, so she literally just transcribes them here. Not a big deal. We can skip past this since we just read them out ourselves. Okay, so that's going to be all uploaded on the 9th, and now she's jumping forward literally an entire month and a half. If we go biblical, Leviathan is the beast at the bottom of the abyss. See, Raven, I don't know. I'm trying to think if Remedy uses a lot of, at least, like, Christian imagery. If we're going biblical or biblical imagery like that. Outside of Max Payne 2, where they do make reference to a lot of Genesis Garden of Eden imagery with the serpent, the apple, and Adam and Eve. Specifically in Odin's manor. Or, not, sorry, Alfred Woden's manor, I should say. But, I mean, that is a possibility. All right, let's move on to May 30th. Shoebox Dream number 2. I actually do have a copy of the Calavera on my bookshelf behind me. I still need to get back and finish it. Shoebox Dream number 2. I had another dream last night, and when I woke up, a real scare. In the dream, I was visiting the previous owner of my house at the nursing home. Only in the dream, the owner wasn't a sweet old lady. He was a man, and he wasn't old. He was a young man with a dark hair, very good looking in fact. I remember that he was wearing a funny jacket with old-fashioned elbow patches. Alan? I was there to find out about the shoebox. But he was very agitated and didn't listen to me. The place was brightly lit. It was sunny outside, but he was still very anxious and wanted to turn all the lights on. He kept going on about the place being too dark. I remember being certain that all the lights were already on, but that didn't calm him down. In the end, he was screaming for me to turn the lights on. I was already starting to freak out, starting to think that something was horrible was coming to take us away, and that's when I woke up. I was really thirsty. I got up from bed and went to get a glass of water. In the hallway coming back, I suddenly saw a dark silhouette of a man outside the window. I must have screamed aloud. My heart stopped for a moment. I dropped the glass. Luckily, it didn't break. It's one of my favorites. I was really frightened. I rushed through the house, turned on all the lights. My first impulse was to dial 911, but after a moment, that felt silly. I told myself that it must have been imagined the whole thing, seen my own reflection in the window. Of course, with all the lights on inside, I couldn't see anything outside anymore. I ended up calling a friend of mine, Joss, who lives nearby, waking him up. He was kind enough to come over and check the place. Bless him. Joss is a real angel. There was no sign of anything outside. Today, I'm definitely going to buy some yard lights. I've been meaning to do that for some time already. Do you think it's possible that filmmaker is Scratch and Alan Scratch or just another customer? Well, that's the idea, Wolf, is I do think that filmmaker Zane is Scratch from American Nightmare. Or at least the idea behind how he functions in the story was evolved in the narrative to become that. It's like in the first draft of Return, which is American Nightmare, Mr. Scratch was the tulpa of public perception of him, and then later that idea kind of evolved into what we now have as filmmaker Zane. Oh, break, you missed it. I had the full spiel about my Tom the Filmmaker theory. Because it came up organically, you know. But yeah, so there's just a little weird thing right here is that the owner wasn't the old lady. He was a young man. Basically, they mention Alan here, which we know for a fact that's not the case. But again, it's a dream. It probably shifted, and who knows? Maybe this old lady never really had the shoebox, and it's just because of the story being written, it was said it was, and boom, now it is. Yes, you don't have to hush anymore. But who knows? You kind of just go along with it after a while. Okay, let's go ahead and shift forward. This is going to be about a little bit less than a week. Actually, guys, give me a second. I need to turn the AC on in my place and get some more water. I will be right back, and we'll continue on. Okay, and we are back. And we'll talk more about my additional evidence for why filmmaker Zane is not what he claims to be and that he's a fraud. There's more evidence now in Wake 2, but we'll get to that when we get to that. Alright, so let's move ahead and jump forward 4 days to June 4th. So this has already been going on for, what, 4 months now? What was Alan doing in Ordinary? He wasn't. He was in a dream. This happened inside Samantha's dream, so Alan wasn't in Ordinary. He technically you see, even within the dream, that scene happened in a nursing home, and we don't know specifically where that nursing home occurred. Yeah, the theory honestly fixes a lot of your grievances of Alan Wake 2 if it pounds out. Dude, it'd be so beautiful if it worked out that way. Because let's be honest, you know what, Alan Wake 2, we'll talk about it in Alan Wake 2. I don't want to get sidetracked. We're focusing on Samantha's story here. Alrighties. So here, it looks like she got a little fireplace set up with some deer antlers. So I've been very, very busy at work and too exhausted to post here for a while, apart from the nightmare the other night, which I had to get off my chest immediately, and it still gives me the creeps. On a more positive note, the house is slowly starting to look really good, and I've been living here for a while. Here's a photo of my fireplace. I got the yard lights, now I only need to get them installed. To be honest, I'm playing for time here, writing this, not looking forward to going to bed. I was listening to a beautiful and brilliant Florence and the Machine earlier, and the song No Light, No Light made me think of the nightmare again. Your OCD hates the fireplace. Honestly, maybe this is just me being weird, but based upon the color and based upon the shape of it, it looks like a piece of like sweet potato pie with chocolate in the center. Just saying. It's shaped like a pie slice. I'm weird, ignore me. Okay. So, Florence and the Machine, No Light, No Light. Great tune, by the way. If you can look it up on YouTube if you'd like. There's a full music video. It's great. But the basic impression I get from listening to the lyrics is sometimes the light of illumination is so blindingly bright you actively look away. And you say, no, no more, I can't see it, no more light. It's just way too much for you to take in. And sometimes when it comes to the God honest truth, yeah, I get that. Yeah, Capitan, there's no confirmation of anything to do with Alan Wake 3. I haven't even seen Remedy mention it. Well, it's not necessarily light sensitivity, Marama, but it's specifically what is being illuminated by the light. It's like, no, I just don't want to see that anymore. Leave me alone. Like, have you ever had those scenes in fiction where the truth is finally being revealed to the character and they just don't want to hear it anymore? Yeah, reality can be blinding. That's the impression I get from this song by Florence and the Machine. Alright, now we're jumping forward to the following night. And remember, this is the night after. This was at 11:37 p.m. on the 4th. Now let's look at 12:50, barely an hour later. Called 911. Men outside, shadows, dark coming, help, more light. Okay. Oh, and Break, you have to remind me, this use right here where they have the exclamation point dash dash forward slash asterisk font definitions. What did you tell me this was? Apparently this is a piece of code, but I forgot what you said it was about. Let me see if I can pull it up on my Discord. It's an HTML comment used for compatibility with some old web browsers. Okay, gotcha. And it's meant to set the font to the page. Gotcha. Yeah, because remember we talked about this, I want to say like a month ago, but I forgot the response to it. I'm just curious why it would pop up here as the blog post title, because all the other ones she has a specific title for the blog post, but this one just came up as a random HTML thing. But it becomes visible if don't close the comment. Okay. Gotcha. So it's most likely she didn't have time to finish up the title, so kind of just posted this instead as an error. Okay. Haunted house. And this is basically a full week later. Your guess is that she slammed a post with an incomplete post. Yeah, wouldn't surprise me. All right. I'm back and I'm okay. Well, not okay, but alive. They kept me in the hospital overnight for observation, and then I spent a couple days in my parents' house. On the night of my previous post, sorry if it frightened anyone, I had trouble going to bed. I was on my laptop listening to music. The TV was on in the living room. Again, she was listening to Florence and the Machine. I wasn't really, or at least that was one of the tunes. I wasn't really watching it, but I was mildly amused by the fact that the episode in the crappy horror show that was on was about a girl who buys a haunted house and gets into trouble. It was a rerun of The Twilight Zone or something, Night Springs. Samantha just so happened to be watching Night Springs, and it was a episode about a girl who purchased a haunted house. She's literally experiencing the events of a Night Springs episode. Well, we don't know if Alan wrote the story, we just know it's a Night Springs episode. No idea. There's no confirmation of that. You can infer it, but there's no yes or no, so I'll keep it as a 50-50 chance. But this is what I meant when we were going through American Nightmare, where we finally get to see what a Night Springs AWB event looks like from the outside, rather than being on the inside where the characters are trapped up in the story. This is what a real-life person would be experiencing while a Night Springs episode is occurring centered around them. So let's keep on reading and look at it. It got ridiculous when the corny narrator started saying things like, she thought she had bought an ordinary house in an ordinary town, but nothing could be more out of the ordinary than this house. Gotta play up the fact that it's in the town of Ordinary. I actually laughed out loud and walked to the living room to see. It was like someone was playing a practical joke on me, but then I immediately saw the men outside my window. Dark, shadowy silhouettes, and the power went out, and it was dark, and I could hear a window breaking in another room. I ran back to the kitchen where my laptop was. I grabbed it, rushed into the closet, shutting the door behind me. I sat on the floor and dialed 911. I could hear sounds of them breaking in, and insane shouts and laughter. I've never been so scared in my life. I could hear them getting closer. I stopped talking to the phone so they wouldn't hear me. I wrote the blog post. I don't know what I was thinking. Then they were behind the door, and I got up, trying to keep it closed. It flew open violently, and I fell and hit my head. The last thing I saw in the glow of the laptop was the shoebox. It was sitting on the shelf. There was no way I could have not seen it before, if it had been there since it went missing. Then all went black. I woke up in the hospital with a mild concussion. The police said that there was no signs of a disturbance or break-in, other than what they themselves caused when they came in to check and found me. I don't know what to think. I've been very stressed at work, but I'm not going crazy, and I didn't just imagine it all. It really happened. One thing is certain, this is my house, and I won't be frightened away by ghosts or shadows. This is my house, and I will fight for it, if that's what it takes. So, there. I just checked. The shoebox is there and the shelf in the closet. There is stuff inside that was not there before. Alright, so this is the point in time where most likely the FBC lost the shoebox, where it just vanished out of the oldest house and showed up back here where it's supposed to be. Probably because the story, that's how the story goes. Do you think this event was the Night Springs episode? So I don't... The thing is with Night Springs is I'm not going to say that what happens is a one-for-one exactly what occurs. Uh-oh, there's the cat. But it is very much a narrative overlap. It's like how Coffee World overlaps with the events of Control. You know what I mean? Get on in here, cat. Get on in here. So it's a very similar narrative. So what happened in the Night Springs episode around the woman who purchased a haunted house is very similar to what's happening to Samantha, but it's not a direct one-for-one. Hold on, I gotta move these keyboards around. I gotta move you here so the cat doesn't step on the keyboard. Hello there, good girl. Did someone take it from the oldest house? No, Capitan. It did vanish from the oldest house, as we saw when I pulled up that screenshot from Control. But most likely what happened is when the story said, hey, the shoebox is here, well, it could no longer be in the oldest house because, according to the story, it's here in Ordinary, in her closet or whatever. So therefore, it kind of just had to shift. It had to go to where it's supposed to be within the narrative. Otherwise, there'd be a plot hole where it's in two locations at once. Okay, so I'm going to have to keep my keyboard on my lap so the cat doesn't step on things. As what Mott would say, because that's just how the story goes. Aw, you're a good girl. Okay. Let's see what else we got in here we can look at. Oh, so interesting deal here. Let me double check something real quick. Narrator, you could hear it closer, stopped. Laptop, grab the kitchen thing. Zoe, I can't read anymore. I can't read. Come on. You can get down on the keyboard. There we go. Yeah, I know. You don't... You want all the attention. I'm giving you all the attention. Alright. Okay. Practical joke, dark shit, but then I immediately saw the man outside. Power went out. Window breaking. Okay, so the window broke. But then she mentioned the cops said there was no damage except for what they caused. So I wanted to make sure it wasn't just that a door broke, because if the cops broke the door down, then there's an overlap in damage to her house. But according to them, when they showed up, there was no damage there. Meaning that Samantha's experience, you could argue, didn't happen in reality in the most strictest of sense. It's a possibility that it occurred in an overlap, that there was an overlap created between the Night Springs episode and Samantha's experience, which we know as of Alan Wake 2 that does happen, where it's kind of a pocket dimension that exists between two aspects of the story, where we have things like the Poet's Theater is an overlap for Coffee World, and it created a pocket universe at the bottom of the well. So I'd presume the cleanest way to explain this is that because of the episode playing on TV and Samantha being in the exact same situation, it created that narrative overlap, and her experience with the quote-unquote taken occurred in the overlap. Therefore, reality was not affected. And I'm curious if that's how all Night Springs episodes work. Or when they have an overlap event, an AWE event, where it exists within essentially an overlap pocket dimension, but it's still centered in that area where the overlap is occurring. Now, is that what happened with characters like Emma and Dr. Meadows and Serena Valdivia from American Nightmare? Who knows? Who knows? Am I still live? I'm just making sure. Oh my gosh, the cat just... She wants to be the star of this. Do you want to be the star of this stream from now on? It's possible whoever said the overlap did that just to move the shoebox. Well, I don't think anyone physically moved the shoebox. I think it's more likely that it's just there because the story says it's there. I mean, it's the same equivalent to what happened in the well-lit room, where the clicker was always with Alice, and then because the story said so, boom, now it's here in the well-lit room. Someone physically didn't just pick it up and just carry it all the way to the well-lit room. It's just the story says so. So therefore, I mean, we see the same thing happen in Alan Wake 2, where things get put into the shoebox and then get teleported between Alan, for example. I mean, it's likely that Alan wrote it, but I can't say for sure. I'm not going to go on record and say objectively, yes. It's a possibility, though. But yeah, this... And it makes me wonder what other AWE events happen when it specifically deals with Night Springs. Would we even notice it? Granted, the FBC is aware of what happened to Samantha here, so... possibly, yeah. Possibly, yeah. Maybe they do know more about these Night Springs events than we know, but it's possible they don't know that it was caused by a Night Springs episode. But who knows? Okay, let's jump out of June and move into July. This is going to be the end of July. Yeah, over a month later. House guests. Can't Alan just write the darkness out of existence? No. It's a law of nature. It'd be the equivalent to trying to write gravity out of existence. Maybe that's why they want to buy Night Springs. So the FBC purchased Night Springs as a TV show because they wanted to do experiments in reality alteration. They wanted to see if they can induce like urban legends, basically create urban legends to become real by suggesting it to people through the television show. Do we think that Samantha Wells is Pose? Well, Captain Lake House basically states outright that Samantha Wells is the singer that was in the lake house that we presume is the in-universe echo of Poe. And we know Poe exists within the Alan Wake setting, at least within the Dark Place, so do with that information what you will. Alright, house guests. Soon after my last update, someone contacted me. They had found me through this blog. They said that they know a lot about what's been going on, and about the origin of the shoebox's contents, and that this kind of thing has happened before, elsewhere. They promised to tell me more, on the condition that I'd stopped updating the blog. They said that this whole thing should be kept secret and hinted that it could be dangerous, that there are people out there who think that the contents of the shoebox could be very valuable, and would be willing to commit crimes to get a hold of them. In a way, it felt like it felt a lot like my nightmare about the agent who came asking for the shoebox. Of course, this was totally different in many ways, but still, it reminded me of that, like the dream had come true somehow. I promised to think about what they told me. 1 second, gotta sneeze. And it did not come out. Damn it. Where does Poe exist now in Wake 2? You see her band stickers in the green room of Mr. Door's show. Like, if you go around his room, you'll see stickers on some of the gear. Anyways. Okay. In a way, it felt a lot like my nightmare about the agent who came asking about the shoebox. Of course, this was totally different in many ways, but still, it reminded me of that. Like the dream had come true somehow. I promised to think about what they told me, and I have, and that's the reason why there have been no updates for a while. They were friendly enough, but the more I thought about it, the more the whole thing felt like a threat. And that really pisses me off. It's a free country, and I can write about anything I want in my own blog. And the shoebox and everything in it came with the house, and thus, it's mine. I've decided to keep updating the blog for now. Alright, so this one has a lot of details in here that we have no confirmation of. Now, the organization, they're saying, they said this whole thing should be kept secret, and that there are people who would think the contents of the shoebox can be very valuable and be willing to commit crimes to get a hold of them. Now, I've always presumed they're talking about the FBC here, but it's also possible, like Bomb Style mentioned as well in chat, that this could be the Blessed Organization would commit crimes in order to get a hold of what's inside the shoebox. That is another possibility. Specifically because we haven't... Oh, sorry, I just hit the microphone. Specifically because in the in the Lake House DLC, they do make the inference that the singer, there may have been a connection at some point with the Blessed Organization as well. They flat out say blessed in that, which we looked at the very beginning of the stream. So with that data point, and the fact that these people would be willing to commit crimes, I don't think that the FBC would be, quote-unquote, willing to commit crimes to get a hold of the shoebox. They would just say, hey, federal business, this is ours now, and take it. They wouldn't be breaking the law. They wouldn't be committing crimes. They'd just be using their executive power as a government agency. It just wouldn't make sense in that context. Okay, I'll just leave the door open. She asks to come in, asks to go out. Now she wants to come back in again. Freaking cats. Now, and then there's also the person who's been emailing her. Now, originally, one of the thoughts I had was possibly Barry is reaching out to her, but I don't think that's the case. The cleanest version of this is that Clay Stewart was the one reaching out to Samantha. And that, because since he had experience with what's going on with Alan Wake, specifically during the 2010 AWE, and he was also put on a permanent watch list by the FBC, he kind of has knowledge about what's going on there. I mean, because I can't really think of anybody else. I mean, you could maybe argue Alice. Like, the only people that it really could be is Clay, Barry, Alice, and maybe someone we don't know. But it seems like it's more stay under the radar, don't let them get their eyes on you. Clay seems like a logical fit, but again, no confirmation. We don't know. So let's go ahead and skip to later on in July 22nd to look inside the shoebox again, because there's new contents. When I found the shoebox again, there were more poems inside and a battered old device, a switch of some kind. I actually had to go and ask about it in the local hardware store to be sure what it was. It's an old light switch. When you flick it, there's a solid, satisfying click. And supposedly Sam actually did have an old light switch as a kid, and he used to play around with it. I'm not sure if this is the exact same one, but true thing. True story. When you flick it... Okay, when I flicked it in the first time after finding it, all of the lights in the house went out. I swear I'm not making this up. It turned out to be the whole neighborhood, actually, and the real reason for the power outage turned out to be a thunderstorm rumbling above. But talk about a coincidence of a lifetime. I flicked the switch many times after that, and nothing strange has happened. I can't explain where this new stuff came from. Someone broke into my house and put it there. That makes no sense. Yeah, right, a thunderstorm. That happened literally the incident. But yeah, this is a very different light switch than the clicker we see, but anyways. Okay, the following day, more shoebox poems. There were 6 new poems in the shoebox, as well as something else. Not a poem. A title page, I suppose. It seems to come from a different batch. All the pages seem old, as if they've gotten wet at some point. In any case, here are the photos. Okay, let me get some water, and then we'll continue. Alright. Yeah, you good kitty. You guys ready for some more poetry? Let's do this! I came looking for my princess. Instead, I found a witch wearing her face. Again, looking for Barbara, came across the scratching hag. No one in the family had noticed the change. She said, she becomes me. Dark presence becomes her. Yep, makes sense. Through all the wicked things she did to me, her beauty kept me in a daze. I stared at her adoringly and forgot how she used to be, and she tortured me for days and days. She said, she becomes me. Isn't it strange that with every wound, she's caused her beauty in the mirror fades? I hear she's already looking for another pretty girl to put on the same old one's place, to put on in the same old one's place. She said, she becomes me. We're both so thin, we wear our skeletons on the outside. She becomes me. So Barbara was offended, thought this was about her. Of course it's not. I mean, it kind of ends up being about her, even though that wasn't his intention, but it is what it is. No, she just thought she was talking about her, like, as if, like, why would you say that some dark, evil witch started wearing my face, or is that what you think of me? No. But it didn't matter. The implication was there, and you know how the dark place loves implications. Page 2. Tightrope walking. Would you choose a safety net that traps you and kills the thrill? Thin weave of wires slices your flesh. I must prefer the dark air in between. Soft shadows hug you gently all the way to the ground. It's an interesting imagery. It's essentially trying to say that when you create the safety net, it basically locks you inside of a cell that can slowly kill you. The safety net literally cuts your flesh if you fall onto it. But without the safety, you are hugged by the darkness, like the infinite air. Keep it safe or take a risk. And I remember Break made a comment here that the hugging you gently all the way down to the ground very much brings to mind that one lady where we had the missing manuscript page who jumped off of Lover's Peak trying to commit suicide. And she used the same imagery where she was hugged by the darkness and carried gently to the ground. So it's a very similar image. So would you rather stay safe and remain and become a prisoner to your own death trap, or remove the safety, risk it all? You got a buffer there? Okay, I'll just pause here for a second. We're almost done. Okay. What was the last thing you guys remember hearing? I just want to verify we are all good before I continue onwards. It's fine now? Okay, perfect. Oh, that's a good kitty. It's fine, okay. Your pen clicking? Was I using my pen? Anyways. Alright, the lady just bought a house. Sorry if you said earlier, but do we know who's writing that is in the pen? I'd presume... Well, let's look at the handwriting. B is offended. That's this way about her. So this is probably Zane writing this. This is likely Zane writing this. Alright, now written here is a quote. Which are you drinking, the water or the wave? John Fowles. So I looked this up. This is a quote from a book called The Magus by John Fowles. And I have a copy sitting here right at my desk. And I'm about halfway through it. This whole story, just to do a quick summary, involves a British professor who takes a job at a university on a Greek island. And while teaching there, he has a series of existential crises. He ends up meeting a man who is a master magician. And what happens over the course of the story is the magician forces the professor into a series of, I don't want to call them plays, but they are fictional situations. He forces him through a series of events that are all fabricated, and the protagonist can no longer tell what's real and what's not and what's the fiction anymore. And the whole purpose of it is to break down his ego and teach him something at the end of the day. Now, the quote, which are you drinking, the water of the wave? What this essentially was referring to is the wave is the physical expression of water, while water is the essence of water. What the magician is trying to ask of the protagonist is, which are you engaging in? The wave, which is the fictional reality that I'm making around you. I'm putting on an elaborate performance all around you that you can't tell fact from fiction. Are you so entrained in the fiction, or can you understand what I'm trying to say? Are you engaged with the wave, or are you engaged with the essence, the water, is the point I'm trying to make, or the fiction that I'm trying to present to you? It'd be the equivalent of, are you focused on the Wizard of Oz or the man behind the curtain? Which is which? Do you get what I'm trying to say, or you still is the bedazzlement capturing your attention? This seems really interesting, considering Zane is writing this in the columns. He's referencing a book that has to do with the crossover between fiction and reality, and a magician trying to pull the wool over your eyes and distract you, very much like The Wizard of Oz. What is he trying to say here? What is Zane trying to imply here? That we, as the audience, can get so caught up in the wave that is the Remedy verse and things going on here, versus understanding what's actually going on. We're getting too confused by the story and not seeing what's behind it. I mean, the Andersons said something about that in Alan Wake 2. Don't let the story confuse you. Don't look at the smile, checks the hands. But it's just, considering the whole point of the Remedyverse is literally fiction overtaking reality, are we going to be so distracted by it we don't see what's actually going on? So this implies that Zane is asking if you were seeing him or the bright presence. I mean, I could go with that. I mean, I think this line can be applied to so many things in the Alan Wake saga of the Remedyverse. But yeah, are you distracted by Zane as the diver, or do you understand that it is the bright presence? Like, do you really get what's going on, or is the plot too distracting? Anyways, let's move on. And yes, I did buy the book, and I'm reading the whole thing just because I wanted to know what this referenced. That's the dedication I do for you guys. Anyways, moving on. More than anything, his dearest wish, he wanted to go from there, to leave. But he could not change his heritage. The blood in his veins was ink, and the crown was too tall, or is it coffee in his veins, to pass through the door. He was doomed to remain a king forevermore. To pass through the door, he was doomed to remain a king forevermore. I don't know. Who do you think we're talking about here? Because, like, there's two images that come to mind where they're talking about this more than anything, his dearest wish. He wanted, because he's referring to he rather than I. I mean, I wouldn't say Scratch, only because Scratch is able to leave. I mean, we could, well, I mean, it could be referring to the filmmaker Zane version of Scratch, or door comes to mind as well. But no, he can pass through the door at will, so no, that wouldn't make sense. The blood in his veins was ink. Yeah, I can refer to a few people. Because the simple fact that it's saying he was doomed to remain implies it's still the case. Or a character that has yet to be created. I'd presume it's a character that has already been created. You guys are putting your money on Alan here? Yeah, the ink in his veins implies a writer. That's true. He wanted to go from here. He had to leave, but he couldn't. He's past a king forevermore. Yeah, you know what? I can see that. I can see Alan when it comes to this. But this would also imply that he stayed here. No, I wouldn't say Max. I have a vest just simply because this line right. Whoa, shoot. The line about the blood in his veins being ink implies, yes, he is a author of some kind. And yeah, that's a good point. The petrol in his veins is also used to describe Tom in Death Rally. So that is true. Okay, let's just move on. Inside this shoebox we killed for, there is, we don't know what, neat stacks of $100 bills, jewels like stars. The dream of those who slept in this town, the dreams of this town, when we open it, the dreamer will wake, and we, all part of his dream, will be gone. Our wishes come true. The power to punch a hole into the universe. Inside this shoebox we killed for, there is a coffee thermos, a flashlight, a box of ammo, 2 pages of poems, countless words. Inside the shoebox we killed for, there is no cat, poisoned or otherwise, dead or living, undead, uncat, baleful spirits, all of the evils of the world, no hope, nothing, darkness. So I presume they're referring to 3 individual shoeboxes here. One definitely has to deal with stuff with Alan Wake here. Those who slept in this town. We don't know. Neat stacks of $100 bills, jewels like stars. Dreams of those who slept in this town. Dreams of this town. Yeah, this one's talking, like, obviously a Schrodinger's cat situation. This one, who's the dreamer? The shoebox is everything and nothing until it's written to life. I don't know. This is just kind of like weird. Like this one, I kind of ignore it because it's just an Alan Wake gameplay drop. This one is definitely referring to Pandora's Box and Schrodinger's cat at the same time. This one's a little weirder. Anyways, this bottom section here is actually really interesting and perfectly sums up the nature of the dark place and ties into that concept of unreality that you just mentioned. E cannot see it, Dr. Emil Hartman. His view is too narrow. Crossed out. It's too limited. It's not a lake. It's an ocean. Darkness before the act of creation. Before the Big Bang. Darkness upon the face of the deep. Upon the face of the waters. Before light. Before the primeval atom. Before the word. Before the poem. I can be a creator. The creator. It has happened before, and it will happen again. Crossing out many times. And this just sums up my entire thoughts on the dark place as a whole as a chaos dimension of pre-reality. It's unreality, it's everythingness before it was formed. Because there's a conception where upon the face of the waters is a Christian reference. Well, not just Christian. Like, if I remember correctly, Japanese origin story has to do with the Great Ocean. I think Izanagi dipped his spear into the water and the first lands emerged, too. I think a lot of origin stories deal with, like, the untamed waters, and then later the land emerges and stuff along that nature. But for the most part, the Orphic egg is probably the easiest thing I can refer to. It's a symbol of an egg being surrounded by a serpent, and then when it cracks open, all of reality bursts forth. But before the egg cracks, all of reality exists within it, and it hasn't yet been formed. Why is this poem written in all caps? Why is the poem written in all caps? Oh, it's a proper term, I guess. Oh yeah, no, Frostham, I know what you meant by quadratum. Trust me, I'm very much aware of Kingdom Hearts lore. But yeah, it just means that it's a state of... The dark place is a state of reality before manifest, before the material world emerged forth. It's pure thought and ideas. But it's all thought and ideas that ever has been, will be, or is currently. And then you can take that energy and shape it into reality. I mean, we have the Night of Brahma. We have, like, a lot of Vedic and Hindu philosophy has to do with singing the universe into existence, and then when the song ends, the universe ends. It's primordial sludge, yeah. It's everythingness before it was manifested, and it takes the mind of an artist to shape it. Which would imply, who is the creator of the universe that Alan Wake occupies? I mean, we could argue that it's Remedy, Sam Lake, and all those writers. You just described chaos magic. Yep, Raven. Chaos. That's why I use the term chaos to refer to it. K-H-A-O-S, not C-H-A-O-S. I like using K when I refer to chaos in that context. I use C when it has to do with like randomness and unexpectedness. I think it means the poem that Tom wrote while sinking. Yeah, there is the lost poem that, and we see later on in this that Tom did create his own universe. But we'll get to that when we read it, so let's just keep on going. I've rambled here enough. I was surprised to find that such revulsion could shine in someone's eyes. How I hate your kind, he said as we sat down to dine on him. No idea. You guys have any thoughts on this one? 'Cause I'm not seeing how it relates to other stuff. Yeah, who is the I and who is the he? I mean, it could just be a simple John Mira scratch situation. I mean, that's fair. But who knows? Wait. You want me to go back? Hey, what's up, Forest Leaves? Welcome on in. No idea. Could it be Zane taking Barbara down with him? I mean, oh, that's a thought. That the I is Barbara and the he is Thomas. That is a possibility, I guess. Alright. A good friend passed away today, quite unexpectedly. A bit of bad luck there, but these things happen. It was nobody's fault, really. He was taken by a dark presence. We keep his things in a shoebox on our mantelpiece. E didn't find this funny. We keep his things in a shoebox on our mantelpiece. So it's kind of implying something about Tom, but we know for a fact that the bright presence ended up taking him over, so I'm not sure. Unless the he is somebody else, the friend is somebody else here. It's like he's talking about himself in the future. No idea. Alright, last page is Campbell's Monomyth. 1 departure to initiation and 3 return. Returned by scratched out Alan Wake. So now we got Alan's own papers in here. But why would Alan's papers be in here? Are we able to trust that all of this was Zane now, or was Alan trying a new style? I don't know. But it's very apparent that he's remembering, hey, the Monomyth has 3 parts: departure, initiation, return. The problem with American Nightmare is he jumped from departure straight to return, and he missed the initiation process. Is it the same font? I don't know. Is that the same font? I'm not really good at telling. I don't think it's the same font. I'm trying to check the capital letters. We only have R-E-T-U-R-N. T. Wait, hold on. It looks like the same font. It's just it's smaller size. Where did initiation come from? Was it Door or his own? Because they both is implied. No, I'm pretty sure Alan wrote it all. Door wouldn't have written all that stuff. I mean, it's very explicit. It's initiation by Alan Wake. Okay. But that's about it for the new poems, though. All right, guys, we're in the final push. Yeah, the problem, Arama, is that at the point in time where Dor gave him the thought about it, he kind of already had written it. The story was already written, it's just Alan had no memory of writing it, because again, as the protagonist, you don't have knowledge of the writing process or what happens at the end. So it was more that Dor was reminding him of what was in his own book that he'd already written. Alright. There were 6 new poems in the shoebox, as well as something else, not a poem. Wait, I already read that. So now we got all these, and these are just the transcriptions of it, so we're kind of just going to skip them. Let's move on to the last page. Or the last entry on July 29th. But yeah, I don't see Dor as the type to set into effect a series of events that will lead to his daughter being brought up inside the story, because he was pissed about that. If he's the one who made the whole initiation plotline, then he'd be the one directly pulling Saga into the story, and I don't see that happening. At all. I mean, like, Dor realistically played the same role at the manuscript pages, because remember, the Bright Presence was dropping the pages on the path all throughout Alan Wake 1, just to remind him, saying, hey, this is how the story goes, just letting you know so you can make better decisions as you go. American Nightmare, Alan flat out said, I put these manuscripts in my paths to remind myself of what the story is. Same thing, Dor probably is just, Dor's involvement is to remind me of what's going on, helping him along. It's not that he's the creator of it, it's simply like, hey, I know what happens next chapter, just letting you know. That kind of thing. Alrighties. Diving deep. I had another strange dream, very different from the previous ones. This was not a nightmare, quite to the contrary. The diver from the photos appeared to me. He looked nothing like in the photos, but it was the same man. He was the poet who had written the poems as well. In the dream, he floated in the air above me in the bedroom, as if we were underwater. He was wearing a strange, heavy diving suit, almost like a spacesuit, and he was shining with a bright light. He told me things that in the dream made perfect sense, but now, not so much. I've made a habit of keeping a notebook and a pen by my nightstand so I can write down my dreams as soon as I wake up, but even then I feel that I missed or misunderstood a lot of what he told me, already beginning to forget it while I was writing it down. Also, when I read through my own notes, now, some of them make no sense. Honestly, same. Sometimes when I write my own dreams down, as soon as they happen, and I read them back a month later, I cannot even make heads or tails of what I just wrote. Like, my own writing doesn't make sense. But afterward, and still now, I feel shaken by the powerful emotion I felt in the dream. I'll try to explain the dream as well as I can. The diver told me that a dark presence had taken over his girlfriend, the woman in the photos. He tried everything he could think of to banish it from her, but everything had failed. In the end, he finally understood what he had to do. Finally understood the true nature of the dark place that was hidden under the waves of the lake where they lived. The lake was an opening to dark place that was much bigger than the lake itself. In fact, much bigger than the whole universe we live in. He wrote one last poem, his masterpiece, a secret poem, a hidden poem, a poem that's not among the poems I found in the shoebox. And he took his girlfriend for one last dive. Together they sank down into the depths, far deeper than he had ever dived before. In the dreams, I was there diving with them, and from the depths, something, or some things, surged up to meet them. Things of darkness, but bright things of light as well. The diver explained that these things, these presences, were forever fighting a war between the forces of light and darkness. A dark presence had taken over his girlfriend, and a bright presence now came to take him over. And he surrendered his body to it. But at the same time, the essence of who he was kept diving deeper, even deeper, holding the essence of his girlfriend. Their spirits, souls. The diver, or what was left of him, his true self, spoke the words of his secret poem. The poem described a new world, an island in the sea of darkness, a safe haven, a paradise, a baby universe. The nature of the dark place was such that anything dreamed up there, any dream or work of art, would come true, just as true as anything in our world can be. And the poem came true, and the essence of the diver and the essence of his girlfriend escaped from the darkness and disappeared into this new world to live there happily ever after, while their shapes, his now taken over by a bright presence and his girlfriend's had been taken over by a dark presence, surged up through the opening in the lake to our world to continue their battle there. And there we see the diver and Barbara Jagger. Even though the story said the entire time, oh, this is Thomas Zane moving around in his diver suit. No, 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 no. It's the bright presence taken over the form of Zane. I mean, like, we all rationalize that the dark presence isn't Barbara Jagger. We gotta rationalize the same thing with the bright presence and the diver. When I woke up, I felt overwhelmingly happy and privileged of having been shown this. I've never been so moved by a dream and didn't think it could even be possible. Even now, even though I've forgotten many details, the feeling remains, a feeling of hope, and I know that something amazing is coming, that something wonderful is going to happen. And at the same time, I know that when it does, it will be some... Oh, cat! It's like the last couple sentences! Zoe? I know that something amazing is coming, that something wonderful is going to happen, and at the same time I know that when it does, it will be something totally different from what I'm expecting. Something I could never have imagined, and I know it might take a long time before it does happen. But no matter how long it takes, I will be here waiting. So yeah, that's most likely Sam just writing at the end that, yeah, I want to make an Alan Wake 2, I don't know what form it's going to take. I'll be here. I'm fucking ready for it, man. Yeah, that's just Sam making those comments by the end there. And then the implication we're given is that she was put on a permanent watch list by the FBC as a result of this event. And probably if we take what's in the lake house as 100% accurate, which there's no reason for it not to be 100% accurate, because it flat out says that she was abducted by the lake house, kept down there, and she eventually escaped with the use of a song. And that's really about it. That brings us to the end of our Alan Wake journey. Oh, and my throat is sore. Alright, so before we end this off, I wanted to give you guys a heads up. What is coming up? So after this, did the FBC recover the shoebox? Nope. As far as we know, they never recovered the shoebox bomb. We're never given any information past that. The only thing I could... Actually, let's go off on this hypothesis, guys. What if, when the FBC recovered the shoebox, it was after these events? That they did not recover it during her first dream, and it returned when she had her Night Springs event, when she was attacked in her house? But what if the FBC grabbed it after this event, and it was only until recently when the shoebox vanished and it got thrown down into the basement of Mr. Door's place, where Ahti was keeping watch over it on behalf of Alice and giving it to Alan. In Forest Leafs, the game kind of just asserts that Samantha is the in-game echo of Poe. That's the inference it's giving. But again, this whole blog, there's no reference at all that she's a singer or even has artistic talent, so I have no clue how you can jump from A to Z in that sense. Because at least but getting back to the whole FBC having the shoebox thing, at least that timeline of events would make more sense with why they had in 2019 a whiteboard still investigating this. And again, Vess, we can say we don't know about that all we want, but Lake House explicitly states that that's the case. it just flat out says it. So unless we're gonna argue with what's stated explicitly in the game, because we don't like that explanation, no, I don't know. You still think it was a list of web pages associated with para-utilitarians? Well, no, that's not what it says here. Let me pull this back up. Hold on. I'll be right back while I pull up the web page, the actual document itself. Okay, here we are. I'm going to go ahead and just backtrack so we can read the entire thing. And turn off my own closed captions. Oh yeah, so here's Poe right here. When she's doing her Alan Wake thingy. Be like, it doesn't make sense to me personally either, but I'm not here to argue with the game. Come on. Okay. Follow-up report. On the morning of Redacted, the musician held in the lake house for research purposes was discovered missing from her cell. Security footage of the cell from the night before was damaged by electrical interference of an undetermined nature. Redacted, known professionally as Redacted, so they were flat out referring to Poe here for sure, has produced a song called 6 Deep Breaths during her time in the lake house that was considered very promising as research material by Dr. Marmont and Dr. Marmont. Redacted somehow used her song to orchestrate her escape. Efforts to find her were brief, with any wider searches considered an unacceptable risk to the lake house's mandate of confidentiality. Yeah, she was literally kidnapped. Okay. An investigation is currently ongoing as to whether any staff at the lake house were involved in the disappearance of, we're just going to say, Poe for the time being. B. And again, all of this is referring directly to the musician in question. An investigation is currently ongoing as to whether the subject used the song they created as a escape means of escape. Uses, I don't know why that redacted doesn't make sense grammatically. C. All material related to and work produced by this individual will be stored in the archive for future reference. Online checks for the public reappearance of Poe are to be performed weekly. Known web addresses associated with Poe in the past, known addresses with para-utilitarian/AWE activity. Okay. I'm rereading this now. So let me just do a clarifier here. Online checks for public reappearances of Poe are to be performed weekly. Known web addresses associated with Poe in the past should be searched, comma, and known web addresses with para-utilitarian AWE activity, such as this House of Dreams blog. Okay, there we go. Siren Society, Blessed something, etc. For the up-to-date list. Okay, so here they're literally just listing known websites that have para-utilitarian AWE activity and waiting to see if something pops up relating to this individual. Okay, I take back everything I said. That is a much cleaner... Okay, we're good. I stand clarified and corrected. Okay, so yeah, they're trying to check Poe's other known web addresses, but they're also checking these other places as well. Just in case something pops up. Now, this House of Dreams blog has not been updated since 2012, but Siren Society, we know for a fact, is directly related to Poe. And something to do with Blessed something. So apparently the Blessed organization has their own website as well, that the FBC has been tracking. But there's a full list of other web sites as well. Okay. Well, that actually sums up the entire mystery then. We're good. Thank you. Thank you for making me sit down and really dive into that a little bit deeper. Because, yeah, like, the entire idea never sat well with me, but I always just took it because it was said so many times, but no, that makes more sense. One mystery solved, 100 more to go. For the record, if you ever disproved me, I would have continued to be stubborn for no reason, too. You're good, best. No, honestly, I'm perfectly fine being proven incorrect, even on a live format like this, as long as we're getting closer to the truth. I prefer to be factual and get closer to the truth. If proving me wrong gets us closer to accuracy, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. All right, guys. Well, before I leave you guys off, I will clarify what's going to be happening in the future. So my initial plan was after this to sit down and really fall into my dark place of writing the entirety of the Alan Wake script. On that note, next Monday we should be having our Max Payne 2 video finally released. I'll be uploading it for everyone on Patreon tomorrow morning. So you'll have it over the whole weekend as early access. But Monday, everyone else, you'll get access to Max Payne 2. That's episode 4 of our mostly complete summary of the Remedyverse. But I do need to sit down and start really diving into Alan Wake. My initial intention was to do all of that first, record it, edit it, get it over to Bat, and then start working on the research, because we still got to do the Death Rally remake, Max Payne 3, Agents of Storm, and then we can get into Quantum Break. But given the timeline we have before Control Resonant comes out, I don't think I'm going to have time to do all of that. If we want to finish up Alan Wake 2, or at the very least finish up Control before Resonant comes out. So I am going to take a short break. I'm going to put all the writing on pause. I'm currently reading through Zero State, which is the novelization of Quantum Break. I'm going to go through the art book, The Secret History of Time Travel, get all my notes down for those two things, and we're going to immediately jump right into Quantum Break stream. Once that's done, I'm going to go ahead and pause, read through the Control art book, take down my notes, and jump right into Control, and we'll see where we end there. And we'll just keep on playing the games just so we can have it leading up to the release of Control Resonant. Because honestly, I'm not going to get this done. It's probably going to take me at least a month to write the Alan Wake script in full. Just to be 100% honest. And then recording it, it's going to take me another week to edit all of that, and then who knows. So for the purposes of keeping the ball rolling, let's just keep the streams coming for the rest of the Remedy games leading up to it. Granted, I'm going to be, for the time being, skipping Max Payne 3. I'm skipping, we're not going to talk about Agents of Storm, because again, you can't play that game. It's not on the iOS store anymore. But jump right into Quantum Break, jump right into Control, possibly Alan Wake 2. We're not going to be looking at Crossfire X, because again, that game can't be played anymore, unfortunately. But I will be including it in the playlist for the complete history or story of the Remedyverse. But I will be working on the Alan Wake script in the background of this entire endeavor. I've actually got it written up mostly to the beginning of the 1970 AWE, because the first, I want to say 12 pages of script is just how the universe works. And the history of Bright Falls from the volcanic explosion thousands of years ago up to where Tom the Poet starts working. So I've gotten a good deal of the script already written. I'm on my third or fourth draft of it, but I still got a long ways to go. So most likely next week I'm going to be taking off just so I can get through the art book for Quantum Break and read the novelization, get my notes ready, and then probably the following week we'll get back into the streaming. But with all that said, I will let you all go for now. I'm going to go ahead and rest my voice, probably get some tea to soothe it, because I have been talking non-stop. And I will see you all in a few weeks. Love you all. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you all shortly.